This episode was taken from a talk I held on entrepreneurship and 3 property secrets. I hope you get some value from this talk. I would love to hear your thoughts. You can find me on any social platform, Ryan OTTO or Perfect Property Deal. If you've ever failed at increasing your income from property, it's not your fault. There's lots of misinformation online that's confusing and just holds you back from success. It's okay. You just haven't had the right person to explain it to you and take those fears away. Because I care about your success, and this podcast is here to give you everything you need to start living your dream life. My goal for this podcast is to serve 2 types of people: entrepreneurs who don't own a single property, and landlords who do. They will learn how to earn up to £42,155 a year. That's 201% above the market rent in this well-known but little understood market called Booking.com. Hi everyone, Ryan OTTO here. Welcome to the 2nd episode of Ask Ryan OTTO, where you guys get to ask me anything and I will keep answering your questions. If you're listening on the podcast, on the Perfect Property Deal podcast, make sure that you subscribe over here on YouTube. There's bonus content and exclusive content which only goes out to people that have subscribed. And if you're watching here on YouTube, again, that applies to you as well. Make sure that you subscribe because you'll get access to any bonus content and exclusive content that we share. So, the questions I have from you guys today for this episode are, the first question is, what do I say to the landlord at the viewing? What do you say to the landlord at the viewing? Okay, now, you obviously need to know your numbers before you get there. So you have to do your research, comparables, find out what the property is worth, find out what the property should rent for, whether it's a 1-bed, 2-bed, 3-bed, 4-bedroom house, duplex. You have to know your numbers before you meet the landlord or landlady at the property. So assuming all is well and you've already done your research, your due diligence, your comparables, so now you know how much the property is worth, okay? When you're at the property with the landlord, you obviously have to give them confidence. You have to overcome their objections for them to want to do business with you and reduce that friction, okay? There's only a few things a landlord is looking for. There's a few specific things that landlords are looking for. When you can give them that, that's when you'll close more deals. What I mean by that is, this is all a landlord wants: more rent, less hassle, no voids, no fees, and no evictions ever. There's 5 fundamental things that is all a landlord wants. Let me repeat that. When you can give them more rent, less hassle, no voids, no fees, and no evictions ever. If you just focus on giving them those 5 things, you'll be amazed at how many landlords you're in front of which will say yes to doing business with you versus the ones who will say no when you're just going in there blind, using guesswork and not really having any strategy or any volition for, overcoming the objections and reducing the friction for the landlord and literally giving them everything they want. If you came to me as a landlord and said, I can give you more rent, less hassle, no voids. What happened to my voice? What happened to my voice? Excuse me there. Frog in my throat. So, let's go back again. If you came to me and said I can give you more rent, less hassle, no voids, no fees, and no evictions ever, as a landlord, I will be giving you as many properties as I have, okay? That's what I will be doing. So when you can reverse engineer that and give that to a landlord, that really is all you need to do. When you can do those things, those 5 things. So you've done the hard work by finding the landlord. You've done the hard work by arranging the viewing. You've done the hard work by now being invited to the landlord's property to look at the property and to potentially do business with that landlord. So you need to just focus on those 5 things. How you can give them more rent than they already get. Okay, guys? More rent than they already get. What I mean by that is, let's assume that they've already rented the property in the past with an agent, okay? So they've been receiving, or the rent was, let's use £1,000 a month as a rent. So say the rent was £1,000 a month and the agent charged 10% agent's fees, right? That means they were getting, just as a ballpark, £900 a month, right? They were getting that. So for you to give them more rent, okay, you just need to find out how much they were getting and give them more. Does that make sense? It really is that simple. Find out what they were getting and give them more, okay? Now, less hassle is the second one. Less hassle. Now, one way to give a landlord less hassle, let's assume the agent they were using was managing the property and they called them every time there was a small problem and it cost £25 for a half an hour call out fee for the guy to come, the maintenance guy to come and do something, okay? Anything. Let's say that's happened a few times and the landlord has to, take the phone calls, say yes, worrying about how much it's going to cost and is it going to be a massive bill and is the agent going to put a massive uplift on the price that they pay to their preferred contractors, and all of those other questions and doubts that are in landlord's mind when the agent has to send a contractor. So just imagine that you included maintenance. So all of those problems for the landlord have gone away, okay? Just imagine you included maintenance, right? So we've done the more rent, we've done the less hassle, we've done no fees, right? Agents charge finding fees. Agents charge management fees. Agents charge renewal fees. Agents charge tenants referencing fees. Agents charge lots of other fees and then VAT to the landlord. So when you can approach a landlord and say to the landlord, look, it's £1,000 a month your rent. I can give you £1,000 a month for the next 5 years. And there's no maintenance. We include that. Can we work together today on this project? Can I get your instruction on this property? What do you think they're going to say? Because they will know in the back of their mind that when they're on with an agent, they charge this fee for that fee for that, then this for this, then the renewal, then that. All of these fees add up. So you'll be surprised to see £1,000 a rent, or £1,000 a month rent, can now be reduced to something as low as 750, even 700 that the landlord would actually get. That is the difference. When you know these things, so when you can sit in front of the landlord and say to them, look, this is how much you were getting with an agent. This is how much I will pay. Can we work together on this property today? Do I have your instruction? Are we on the same page? Okay? So you've given them more rent, less hassle, okay? No fees. And now the voids. Let's look at the voids. One of the biggest problems for landlords is the void period. Over the course of a year, let's say you have, or the landlord has 2 tenants. Just 2 tenants over the course of the year. Now, let's assume that it's only empty the property for 4 weeks or 1 month each time. 1 month each time, and the tenant changes twice. Let's assume they're on a 6-month AST. So it takes 4 weeks, let's assume, 1 month to find the first tenant. That's £1,000 gone in the bin. After 6 months, that tenant moves out, then the property's empty again. So the landlord has to go through the same thing and wait around 4 weeks. Remember, most tenants, or every tenant you could say, has to give their existing landlord 1 month's notice. There's very few that don't have to give that notice, but most of them do. So that means the landlord will have to wait again, another 4 weeks or a month. So across the course of the year, that's another £1,000 gone down the drain. That's £2,000 that landlord has lost in voids alone. So let's assume you come along with your offer and you can guarantee no voids because you're the tenant. You'll be staying there for 3 years, 2 years, 5 years, or your company, will be renting the property. So there will be no voids. There won't be any changeovers of tenants. There won't be any void periods. So you've now covered the void. More rent you've given them, less hassle, no fees, no voids, and then the last one is no evictions. Now, anybody on an AST is protected from eviction. The AST gives them that protection. So that means if a tenant moves in today to a landlord's property, let's assume the same landlord. Tenant moves in today, pays the first month's rent and the deposit, and loses their job, can't afford to pay the rent. The landlord would then have to take them to court to evict them. The court process takes around 4 to 5 months on average right now in 2019 to evict a tenant. That means that landlord is earning no rent for the next 4 or 5 months to take them up until the 6 months of the fixed assured short hold tenancy. That landlord will lose a lot of money. 5 months rent from that example, £5,000, okay? Excuse me. So, because you're a company, you have a different type of agreement. You don't have an AST. You have a management agreement. So what that means for the landlord is you're not protected from eviction because you don't have an AST. So the landlord is completely immune from having to evict you, even if the worst happens. Let's say, I don't know, the worst happens to your company and you can no longer trade, okay? Now, the landlord would not have to evict you. They would not have to evict you. The difference is it's a breach of contract for you, which means the landlord would get their property back. But if that was a tenant, they have to be taken to court. They have to go through the eviction process. It's costly, costs obviously lots of money as well. So you get to completely take that away or take those pains away from the landlord. So what I've just covered there for you guys is 5 fundamental things which is all a landlord wants. More rent, less hassle, no fees, no voids, and no evictions ever. All you need to do is give those 5 things to the landlord and you will do more business with that landlord. It really is that simple. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Remember, any questions you have, you keep asking me, Ryan OTTO, and I will keep answering them. So I hope you guys are subscribed on here on YouTube because there's exclusive content, bonus content we only share with you guys who have subscribed. If you're listening over on the Perfect Property Deal podcast, make sure that you subscribed over there to get the bonus content, exclusive content, and you come across to YouTube so you get to see everything as well. So, I've had a fantastic time. You will be seeing more of me, you guys. Remember, you're only one perfect property deal away from everything that you want. My friend, if you're not already using arbitrage, what I mean by that is taking a rental property you don't have to be the owner of out of the AST rental market and putting it on booking.com. You stand to lose out on the largest transfer of wealth that's happening right now in 2019. Because every £1,000 of AST rent is now worth up to £3,000 of rent on Booking.com. If you're not focusing all of your attention on Booking.com right now, you stand to lose. Now you have a massive advantage over the other 2.5 million landlords that are also looking for these secrets. Don't waste that advantage by doing nothing after listening to this talk today. You can join our communities on social media called Ask Ryan Otto to discuss these episodes and have your questions answered on the next show. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Snapchat. I would love to hear from you and know what you liked about this talk.